Well, the Trump administration taking aim at sanctuary cities. The Justice Department now threatening to pull funding from local and state governments that refuse to comply with federal immigration enforcement laws. Attorney General Jeff Sessions making the announcement yesterday at the White House.
Failure to remedy violations could result in withholding grants, termination of grants. I strongly urge our nation's states and cities and counties to consider carefully the harm they are doing to their citizens by refusing to enforce our immigration laws and to rethink these policies. The American people want and deserve a lawful system of immigration that keeps us safe and one that serves the national interest.
Lynda Tran is the former communications director for then Virginia Governor Tim Kaine, as well as a founding partner and communications strategist at 270 Strategies. And Rich Lowry is an editor of National Review and a Fox News contributor. Welcome to you both.
Hi,
Thank
Shannon.
you. All right, Rich, let me start with you. Our most recent polling shows that when we ask people whether or not they think that these cities and states should be penalized, 41% say, yeah, they should be penalized, but 53% say they actually oppose this move that came from the Trump administration yesterday.
Well, I think whatever the polling says, it's a commonsensical move. It is not, these cities should not be allowed to openly defy federal law, which is what they're doing when they forbid their local officers and police from sharing information with the federal government. So this is going to be a long, drawn-out political and legal fight. A lot of these jurisdictions will go to court to fight this, but ultimately they'll be on the losing side. And you saw Miami-Dade County a couple weeks ago buckle and say it's abandoning its sanctuary policies. I imagine you'll see other jurisdictions doing the same.
Okay, but those won't include Los Angeles, which yesterday said there's no way they're going along with this. And also we have reaction from Chicago. Spokesman for the mayor there, Rahm Emanuel, said the administration's plan to deny funds to cities that are standing up for their values is unconstitutional. Also, reaction from the New York State Attorney General saying this: my office will continue to ensure local governments have the tools they need to legally protect their immigrant communities, and we won't stop fighting to beat back President Trump's un-American immigration policies. But Lynda, the law says that local authorities have an obligation to report when they have someone who is in custody, who's here illegally. They have to, by law, inform the feds.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the federal government sets immigration law, and localities have the obligation to comply with federal law. But we should be clear that part of what is concerning people here is this larger issue, which is that, you know, we haven't done anything about comprehensive immigration reform, and what's ended up happening is that states and localities have a little bit of a patchwork solution to how they're dealing with things in their own communities. And so there is a larger issue that's going on here. The other piece of this, and what we should be clear on, is, you know, this is, yes, about federal law, but it's also a bit of a specific pivot from what has been some significant bad news for the administration over the last several days. You know, first you started off with issues and the defeat around the Obamacare repeal effort. Then you're dealing with ongoing
kind of... Let's stick to the sanctuary city thing, because this is something that the president talked about during the campaign. I mean, he put everybody on notice that there was going to be a change and he was going to be doing this. So not a surprise that the Attorney General would come out yesterday and say, listen, you're going to lose federal money if you don't start following federal law.
Not a surprise at all, but there's a bit of a red herring that's happening here as well, because there is a bit of scapegoating of undocumented immigrants as criminals, and study after study has shown that immigrants actually commit crimes at a much lower rate than U.S.-born individuals. I mean, even the Cato Institute has put out research to that effect.
All right, Rich, what do you say? A red herring?
Well, that research is disputed, and the Cato Institute is not actually a restrictionist outfit. They're an open borders outfit. And the fundamental question here is whether we are going to have immigration laws and whether we're going to enforce them or not. The answer during 8 years of the Obama administration was not. They actually encouraged these sanctuary policies. They loosened programs that enhanced cooperation between the federal government and the localities when it came to enforcing these laws. So the first step to any meaningful, comprehensive immigration reform, if we're ever going to get there, has to be enforcement. It has to be not just waving people into this country and once they get into the interior saying it's fine and you can live here completely unmolested. We must have borders, we must enforce our laws, and that's the first step to any broader reform.
Would you agree with that, Lynda? I mean, a lot of groups that want to see immigration reform can at least, some of them agree on that point. Like, all right, let's make sure we're enforcing what we have now. Let's make sure the borders are secure. Then we can get to the bigger program, the bigger overhaul that needs to be done, that both sides agree something has to be done.
I think that there's broad consensus, to your point, Shannon, but I would push back respectfully a little bit on what Rich said about the Obama administration policies, because essentially what we heard from Attorney General Sessions yesterday was a reiteration of a similar announcement that was made by the Obama administration. This is about federal law, and it's about making sure that people comply at the local level.
All right, we will see, because we know how some of these cities are responding, and several lawsuits have been threatened as well. So we'll track all of those. Lynda and Rich, great to have you both with us. Thank you.
Thanks, Shannon.
Thank you. Bill.
22 minutes before the hour, more in this sanctuary city.